at me, bro? What the? All right, guys, welcome back to another video. I'm not exactly sure what it's gonna be about, but I've done quite a bit of things since the last video. I haven't recorded a lot since the other video just because I don't like recording people while I'm doing this. But a couple things have happened. I actually didn't fix my overheating issue. I don't know, I guess changed how it behaved, but it's totally good now. And it's a very obvious issue why, I'll see later. Got a bucket seat, one more interior mod. All this stuff was just kind of minor and wasn't really worth making a whole video about. I'll still be able to share what I did with you guys on the internet as a recap video like I will do in this video. Yeah, so as for the fan, it kind of went away. It went away in the video and it came back like a week ago. And it was only when I was moving very, very slowly. So like in traffic, if I was stopped, it was fine. If it was on the highway, it was also fine. So I kind of thought about it. I'm like, well, like what the heck's the problem? Like if the fan's working at idle and it's good, but it's not working when the car's moving, like what's going on? Well, it turns out it was exactly that. So your radiator fan, I have the Skunk 2 aftermarket radiator and I have a cheapo fan. Definitely made sure that it was wired up correctly when I installed it. I looked at the product page, Googled the wiring diagram of the car to make sure I plugged positive to positive, negative to negative, whatever. Super basic thing. It worked. I moved on with my life. Turns out my unit that I got was assembled incorrectly. I had the thought like, well, if it only has a problem when I'm moving slowly, then maybe the fan's spinning backwards. And I jump the fan manually, I check it out, and it turns out that is exactly the problem. Again, I triple checked my wiring, made sure it was wired up right, and it was, but it was not spinning the right way. So either it was wired up incorrectly from the factory, meaning that the wires were labeled incorrectly, the hot was actually the ground and the ground was the hot, vice versa, or the fan blades were on incorrectly. Either way, I wired up the fan backwards, so I connected the ground to the positive, and it's designed to spin backwards if you want to set it up as a pusher fan, but I consulted the product page and it was supposed to be a puller fan, and obviously that fixed my issues. Now that it's spinning the right way, it actually pushes air towards the back of the car instead of towards the front of the car, just into itself, heat soaking it, and obviously not being efficient at cooling the radiator. So that was cool. Kind of bummed out that I spent, I don't know, I guess it wasn't that much money trying to fix it, just a few sensors, and now I have brand new sensors. Going off of that point, I got the engine at the junkyard. It's an OBD1 engine, and this is still an OBD0 car, so I needed an OBD0 distributor, and I also got the stock intake manifold from a D16A6 when I got this car. And when I got that manifold, the guy threw in a distributor. He said he didn't know if it worked or not. And I was like, thanks bro, like I'm gonna need one anyways, so it was free. Not a big deal. I spent 20 bucks on a rotor and a cap, and it worked fine. I put, I don't know, 6,000 miles on it, and not a single problem. Well, one day, again, I didn't have my camera, I wasn't recording anything, and I'm not sure that I would have recorded anything if I had the camera anyways, because it was kind of stressful. Long story short, I ended up on the side of the highway. At the time, it really wasn't clear what was going on. It was like somehow I was at a rev limiter, like I couldn't accelerate. I was going 75 and like it just kind of slowed me down, and then the car died as soon as I slowed down to an idle. My AFRs looked like pretty normal. I mean, I felt like it was misfiring, but the AFRs like weren't super high or super low. They were 13, 14, 15 the whole time. Definitely not as constant as they are now. Oh yeah, side tangent, I have an AFR gauge now, and this is I say AFR, it's a wideband O2 AEM kit with the Bosch LSU 4.9 sensor. I got it for a really good deal a long time ago and I was bored, so I welded it in a bung, and now I have an AFR sensor. If you're wondering, the OBD0 ECU and one-wire O2 sensor is actually very accurate. This thing reads pretty close to 14.7 while on throttle, and wide open throttle, it reads like between 11 and 12, which is totally fine. Something I would expect if I had it tuned somewhere. Back to the main story. I was on the side of I-25 and didn't know what the fuck was going on. Didn't have any tools, not a single tool, which I know is kind of a dumb idea, but I've touched every single bolt on this car, so I know it's tight. And I've carried around tools in the past, and I've never needed to use it, so that's probably where I went wrong. So luckily there was a CDOT, it's a Colorado Division of Transportation or something. He was right behind me, and he actually called in a free tow truck for me just to get me off the highway, which is all I needed, because I knew whatever the problem was, I could fix it myself. I just needed to actually get some tools. So someone picked me up, I went home, got my tools, drove the Subaru back over there, and turns out that distributor that I got for free, I had replaced the rotor and the cap, and I got this shitty Duralast, AutoZone, whatever cap for it. And turns out the screw that holds it onto the distributor had backed out. So that's why I couldn't accelerate. It was still on, it was still firing in order, but it couldn't spin any faster. It's not keyed or anything, just whatever the post in the distributor that holds the rotor on. So in the parking lot there, I just screwed it back in. It was definitely tight. There's a crush washer on it. It was crushed, so it was tight at one point. Obviously it became not tight. So since it was a mystery distributor, I just ended up buying a new one on Amazon. It's the same exact one that I could have got at a parts store. I think the brand was Cardone. Bolted right up, retimed it, everything went great, it fires good. I also got new plug wires, which I needed new ones because I just had some free B series wires, which they worked, but they definitely weren't the right ones. They weren't the right lengths and everything like that. So my next story is that I actually got a really great deal on a P28 tunable ECU on Facebook. Yeah, so it's a P28A52 from an automatic EX model, which he was selling it for really cheap because it was an auto, and he said he was getting rid of it because he did a manual swap. And I'm sure a lot of my viewers know that you can convert P28s from auto to manual really easily. Literally cut out 2 resistors and jump one of them together. So it was $100. I bought it, and I'm not going to do anything with it yet. My OBD0 setup runs really well. My ECU's stock. My O2 sensor's obviously working. I just got a brand new OBD0 distributor. So all I would need to do to convert OBD1 is a distributor, obviously. Jumper harness for the ECU to convert it to the EF wiring, and a 4-wire O2 sensor, which I need to wire in myself, but I don't need to do it now, and I'm not really going to try to make any power until I go turbo, and then at which point obviously I will put the P28 in and I'll get a tunable RTP chip. Everyone probably knows all about that. All right, I'll pull over and talk about it at some point, but I also got an NRG bucket seat. I sit an inch lower. I'm kind of disappointed. These EFs, you can take the factory seat off of the factory sliders, which is what I did, and it was pretty basic to weld up a bracket. I would say fab, but it literally took like 2 hours. Some scrap metal that my dad had lying around at his shop. I wish I was able to take some videos or photos of it out of the car. Unfortunately, it's passed my mind while I was doing it, and I didn't want to include other people in my videos. It's pretty good. It's just the NRG, like basic NRG seat, non-reclinable. $288 on Amazon. I got a large. I'm a 6 foot, 180 pound guy, so definitely needed a large. I might have been able to fit in the medium from what I heard, but I'm definitely glad I got a large, especially considering that I do not daily this car, but drive it on the street quite a bit. Additionally, I got some pedal covers, which you probably saw at some point during this video. I was missing them ever since I got my car, and it's really not a big deal. But now that I got the carpet, the floor mats, and the seat, everything else looks nice in here. And I have these dinky, ratty ass pedals, so now that's fixed. Additionally, I fixed a coolant leak, which I thought could have been causing my overheating. I have no idea what it's supposed to go to, but I had an extra coolant line on the back of my intake manifold, which was open, and I had just plugged it with a bolt at some point to close it because it didn't go to anything. I think it's because I had OBD1, OBD0. I don't know, it wasn't necessary. There wasn't coolant coming out, so I just ignored it. Well, over time, that bolt, it wasn't a big leak. I didn't notice any coolant loss, but it was sitting on top of my subframe, and there was a few drips there. It was a little bit like corroded coolant-y looking. I'm sure people know what that looks like. So I took it out and I replaced it with an actual coolant cap I got from the auto parts store. It seems to be holding fine, knock on wood. Right now it's just held on by a zip tie because apparently no one sells a spring clamp or a hose clamp that small. It's a pretty small thing. I mean, it's basically the size of a vacuum line. So just a zip tie holding it on right now. No coolant loss, no leaks, no overheating. But yeah, hopefully it stays on there. Okay, here you can see it. It's the one newer one. I think there's two different models. This one has the suede instead of the fake leather. I mean, the suede instead of the fake leather. I got it mounted down here. My head does sit pretty close to the top still. I mean, maybe 2 inches between my head and the ceiling, which isn't ideal. But again, I do have the sliders still, and you can kind of see it down here. On the 89 specifically, all EFs are different, I think. 88 is different than 89, and then 90, 91 is the same. The factory rails are offset, so this one sits higher than this one does. So I have a 1.25 inch piece of tubing sitting here, bolted to the factory rail, the slider, and then 2 pieces of metal going across that bolts to the actual seat bracket. There's not really a science to it. You just kind of bolt it up and set it in there, make some marks, make sure you're in a good position, drill it, weld it, things like that. Additionally, you can see down here my pedal covers, very basic. I think it was $5 on Amazon. Definitely makes the interior look good. The only thing I'm not happy with right now is the floor mats. They seemed like a good idea, and I like the passenger one. It's still really clean. They just don't really fit right. I think they're made for a CRX. This doesn't fit right here, and they always get in the way of the pedals and things like that. All right, under the hood, I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see it, but you might be able to tell I got black going to blue, blue going to black, which is not right. It should be blue to blue, black to black, but it spins the right way now, so whatever. I'm not gonna complain about it. And then my coolant hose right here, again, I'm not sure what it goes to, but there it is. It's not leaking anything. If anyone knows what that goes to, please let me know. I have no clue. No open coolant ports on the back of the head or idler control valve or anything like that. And I guess lastly, I learned my lesson for sure. Don't want to be on the side of the road without any tools. My buddy brought some tools with him, but they definitely weren't adequate to do anything. So I stopped at Harbor Freight and Walmart. I spent 20 bucks on some tools. I just got this little bag that was 6 bucks. $6 socket set, has stuff from 4mm to 15mm, I think, and then there's some standard in there as well with an extension. 6 bucks. I got these two. It's a number 2 screwdriver and a flathead. Magnetic tips. I like these big ones. I think they fit most of the screws the best. They're the closest to the Japanese screwdrivers that Hondas use. And then a wrench set. It's got 8 through 17, which is basically all you need for a Civic besides a 19. And some needle nose just in case. I got some zip ties, and I'll probably have some baling wire just in case. Obviously, I never want to use any of that stuff, but now that I have it, I probably won't need to use it ever. I think that about covers it. If anyone wants me to go more in depth on anything I touched on in this video, please let me know and I can make a dedicated video about that. Obviously, I can't go back in the past and undo things that I've already done, like weld in anything or run the wiring for the sensor, but I can definitely go more in depth about how I wired it up or how I welded the bracket, things like that. I'm sorry this video wasn't the most entertaining. Hopefully someone found it insightful. It's definitely not easy to come up with video ideas and remember to just record things and grab the GoPro and wear it on my forehead or carry it handheld. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments or leave a like. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.